Okay, welcome. Today is December 29th, 2025, and I want to do a video about a slide deck that's called Bitcoin is an Integrity Machine. And let's first start off with the definition of integrity. It's really clear to get our words straight and get a clear understanding of what the concept that we're speaking about. So, what is integrity? Well, integrity lives in several different domains. So, let's look at these three domains. First of all, let's look at integrity in the domain of honoring one's word. And integrity there means doing what you said you would do and doing it on time with no cost benefit analysis of honoring your word. You could look at that as, a personal interaction, but you could also look at that from the Bitcoin layer as smart contracts. If you look at integrity in terms of systems, integrity is the design, the implementation of the design, and the usage of the system fit to the design. This would directly reference the Bitcoin white paper. What systems run on the rules set in the Bitcoin white paper? Those are the systems that have integrity. Excuse me. Then in another domain of data, integrity is the lack of corruption in data or the state of being whole and complete. And this could reference immutable ledger, distributed ledger technology, blockchain, artificial intelligence. So integrity is the zeitgeist in 2025. This slide deck's actually about a year old. I made it when Doge was tweeting out these reference tweets, and at the time Doge was exposing a lot of government corruption, fraud, programs that had no integrity, and the impact and the costs, and it was almost on a daily basis. We were learning new things. Then Doge kind of went quiet, and then they completed their mission a couple months later, an incomplete mission in my opinion. And then within the last 2 days here at the end of 2025, we have the Minnesota Somali daycare scandal, and again integrity has come up. There's a lack of integrity in all those procedures. It's resulted in massive fraud, and people are very, very upset. So integrity, again, is a very, very powerful concept, and it's something that's often overlooked. So in 2017, there was a paper called Putting Integrity into Finance, a Purely Positive Approach. And I am going to bring all this back to Bitcoin in the next couple of slides, but stick with me. So in this paper, there was a quote: integrity is as important a factor of production as labor, capital, and technology. So I'm going to read that one more time. Integrity is as important a factor of production as labor, capital, and technology. So traditionally, when you look at a business, you would evaluate its labor, its capital, the technology that they use, and those are the three prongs. Three of the prongs that you would look at as far as the industry, the business's place in the industry, competitiveness, likelihood for success, et cetera, et cetera. But one of the things that isn't addressed normally is the integrity of the business. So you can look at anything, right? If you start to look at it through the view of what is its integrity, you can look at the U.S. government, right? Labor, capital, technology, but that's all falling apart because there's a lack of integrity. That's also true in a lot of other areas that we'll touch on here shortly. So just, you have to have a meme in your slides, right? So you have your technology, capital, and labor. Those are the three things that a lot of businesses are measured on or people evaluate. But then if you don't have integrity, that goes right through your shield, and it will take you out. So again, here's a list of financial frauds. I'm only going to spend a couple seconds, but you can see billions and billions of dollars. Most of this is accounting related, but it all comes back to there was a breakdown in the integrity of the business. They were doing something they shouldn't have been doing, basically fraud. Fraud is, when it comes down to it, a lack of integrity, right? They're not following accounting procedures. There's straight up crime, whatever it is. And these were some of the most powerful businesses in their industry, labor, capital, technology, but then the integrity took them down and caused massive pain. So another thing about integrity is your performance is dependent on integrity. On the left, you have a bicycle with no integrity. It has no opportunity for performance. You cannot ride that bicycle. But on the right, you have a bicycle that has very high integrity. Everything is finely tuned to within a millimeter spec, and you have the opportunity for the highest level of performance. This is true of anything. This is true for athletes. It's true for businesses. It's true for manufacturing, right? If you have high integrity in your processes, you have the highest level opportunity for performance. If you have low integrity, your performance will be impacted. So let's take this back to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is an integrity machine. Well, what does that mean? Well, you have an integrity machine, meaning like it by default will enforce integrity in whatever system it is used in. So how does it do that? Well, it has an immutable ledger. You can write once, read many. This is actually a requirement for many large financial institutions that they write their financial records on immutable tapes. You have public records. Everything on Bitcoin is visible. At scale, your privacy is very strong, but your anonymity is not. What this does is it removes the ring of Gygas effect. So a law-abiding normal citizen will have a very high level of privacy, very much control over their data and their money, etc. However, if there is crime and the resources warrant it, it can be tracked because everything on Bitcoin is visible. So you have very strong privacy, but you're not able to cheat the system in the same level with Bitcoin. This would be true for Somalia's daycare center issue. This would be true for all the things that we've talked about. Triple entry accounting, you eliminate fraud with real-time transaction verification. So rather than two vendors or two parties each keeping their separate books, you have a third set of books on Bitcoin that keeps each party honest. No party can cheat with triple entry accounting. You have a digital immutable record of events, and it ensures the integrity of systems, records, and titles, which is, if you think about it, a lot of places in the world have unreliable records. Even when it comes to something important like land titles, a lot of scams. People buy a piece of land that the title is fake and they lose the money. This Bitcoin can erase all of that. Then you have massive scale. So Bitcoin must scale or it will die. It's a mathematical certainty with the way that the Coinbase rewards are structured. The incentives are fading over time. So while all of these other things are great, Bitcoin itself must still be P2P electronic cash, its original design, to succeed. This is my opinion on that. So what benefits from integrity? Well, you have pretty much everything, but you have finances, you have transparent accounting, you have instant ownership transfer, you have tokenization. Very, very, very powerful. You have manufacturing. Bitcoin is a supply chain panacea. The Boeing 747 has 6 million pieces and parts. Using Bitcoin, you can track those pieces and parts from foundry to finished product. You have commerce. You can eliminate fraud with instant global verification. I can't count the number of times I try to make a transaction and then for whatever reason it was blocked. I had to jump through hoops. You have to install an app. All these different things. All of that goes away because with Bitcoin, it's very simple to verify if it's a real transaction and if it succeeded. You have transactions down to a fraction of a cent, and you have friction eliminated at all levels. And then, with AI and Web3, one of the biggest challenges is compensation for copyrighted information. So with Bitcoin SV, you can have granular compensation. So if your works are referenced in an AI model, you can extract a payment for that. It's possible. We're talking, maybe fraction of a cent, but it eliminates this issue where all of the information and the value is being stored, is taken from everywhere else and stored only at the top levels. This decentralizes information and makes everybody available to have compensation for what they produce. It's proof of work and protection of proof of work. Your data models for your AI can become public and auditable, and then you can run some components of AI directly on Bitcoin SV. So what benefits from integrity? Well, I would argue everything. So what are the hidden costs of low integrity? Well, we've kind of discussed some of this, but you have fraud, cheating, and crime. You have a loss of trust, which we're seeing right now with the U.S. government. There are a lot of people who are very upset and complaining about they're not going to pay taxes due to the Somali daycare scandal. You have instability, you have reputational damage, you have unreliable performance, and eventually you'll have systemic risk. If your integrity is so shot, then the entire system can collapse. So now this is where the video takes a bit of a turn because I'm going to talk about Bitcoin SV and this slide particular. Fraud, cheating, and crime, I'm going to leave that alone. I can't really say that that's happening or not happening. But I will say there's a tremendous loss of trust. I don't trust, personally, this is my opinion, I don't trust any of the people in Bitcoin SV. I don't trust Calvin. I don't trust Craig. I don't trust CoinGeek. I don't trust Bitcoin Association. I don't trust any of those people. They've basically have earned my distrust. And how do you fix it? Well, you have to restore integrity. That's basically what has to happen. How do you restore integrity? Well, you start doing what you said you would do, and you do it on time. It's pretty simple. It's simple, but not easy. And personally, I don't see a way to fix the system and to gain traction and adoption and be an actual legitimate player in enterprises until that happens. Like, we pretend like it doesn't matter, but as I've shown through these previous slides, integrity matters. So what does that mean? Well, things are very unstable in the ecosystem. There's a lot of cheerleaders that will have you believe otherwise. There's a lot of organizations that will gaslight you into thinking, oh, Terranode, et cetera, et cetera. But none of it's been proven. It's a lot of faith. It's a lot of trust me. And I think that at this point, it's dangerous to continue that. We have a lot of the reputational damage. I mean, if you've been around, you obviously know the reputational damage is horrendous and it needs to be resolved. The only way to resolve it, restore integrity, period. That's it. It's simple, but not easy. You have unreliable performance. I mean, how many applications have come and gone? Some really great ones. I mean, Vote Wallet, I thought was absolutely amazing. Pearsend, could have been a game changer. Twetch was, amazing. Like there's been so much, and nobody can survive this ecosystem because there's no integrity. There's just no integrity. And without integrity, you can't attract the capital, the labor, and you might have the technology, maybe, but the other things without integrity, it's just not going to work. Yeah, the integrity in Bitcoin SV has to be restored, period. And then eventually you have systemic risk. I'm not sure Bitcoin SV is going to make it. I really don't know. I mean, I don't want to be doom and gloom, but I'm just being straight. Like, somebody's got to start telling the truth, and that's how I look at it. There's a movie that's supposed to be in production called Killing Satoshi, and people think that this is going to tell the story of Craig Wright. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Doesn't matter. Even if it did, I don't think it would matter. It's just going to be a movie, right? It doesn't matter. Hollywood's not going to say Bitcoin SV. First of all, it's very unlikely that they tell the story of Craig Wright, but even if they did, it's not Hollywood that's going to save it. The integrity has to be restored by the people who broke it. I don't want to point fingers, but there are a few things that could be done. I'm not even going to go into all of the stuff that was going to happen, that didn't happen, et cetera, et cetera. That would be a 6-hour video to do that. What I am saying is that integrity is vitally important. We've seen it with Doge. We've seen it in the government. We've seen it with the Somali daycare scandal. We're seeing it with Bitcoin SV. And I'm sounding the alarm that if the integrity within Bitcoin SV is not resolved, there will not be a future. We just can't continue to sweep stuff under the rug. It's got to be fixed. That's my opinion. So wrap things up. Bitcoin is an integrity system. Why this design? Well, I think that the creators saw the future, realized cryptography, or maybe not cryptography, maybe that's the wrong word, but owning your own data, having hard money, peer-to-peer electronic cash, given our system was the solution. I think it's genius. Who would create this? I think we know who created it. The guy is a genius, Craig Wright, and it's problematic, right? Because there's so many unresolved things around him, his persona, his statements, et cetera, et cetera. Like, again, that could be a 6-hour video. But those are things that I feel have to be resolved to move forward. What's the end goal of Bitcoin? I think the end goal of Bitcoin is everything. Data, money, information, et cetera, can be very, 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 very powerful, but there's a lot of challenges still ahead. What are the benefits of Bitcoin? Well, you get to own your data. You get to have hard money. Fraud is practically eliminated pretty much everywhere. It's a tremendous enabler. And right now, it's doing less than 1 transaction a second on Bitcoin SV because the network has just been completely shunned. And the lack of integrity around its origin story is killing it, is strangling it, period. That's, I got to be straight. So who are the enemies of Bitcoin? Well, there's definitely some enemies. I think really the two biggest issues are lack of education. I think there's maybe a couple hundred people in the world that really understand Bitcoin SV and its potential. And to be honest, I think the enemies of Bitcoin, some of the biggest enemies are within Bitcoin SV. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and I'm not going to name names, but I think that the constant fear, uncertainty, and doubt, the little white lies, the promotion of things that have not been proven are hurting the system because people aren't stupid. They might not call it out, but they know it's not true, right? If Terranode wants to say they're doing 1 million transactions per second, they need to prove it. Period. Done. Doing it on a test net or what have you. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Neither should you. Maybe they did it with a very highly altered environment with a very plain transaction set. Okay, great. Say that, right? Own it. Okay, that would be honest. That would have integrity. That would have integrity, actually, to just be straight about what you did or didn't do. Hey, we did 1 million transactions, but it was formatted like this, right? It's not the real world. Okay, cool. Do that. But don't try to tell us that you're doing 1 million transactions per second because it's not true. It's not. Okay, I don't want to get on a rant. Probably got a little bit too heated there, but those are my thoughts. I think that Bitcoin SV has amazing potential, created by a genius, and has many, many challenges, much of which is wrapped around the integrity of the system, the integrity of the story. And the way forward is to start to address that honestly and openly. So if you made it this far, hey, thank you for listening, and I welcome your feedback. Have a great 2026.